The movie starts with climate change causing global temperatures to rise fast. The heat melts both the North and South poles, flooding most of the land. As the ice melts, dangerous gases, old viruses, and bacteria are released. To survive, the government builds rockets to escape Earth, but only rich people and politicians get tickets. However, there's no planet close enough to live on, so those on the rockets either die from space radiation or fight over supplies and kill each other. Earth turns into a dead, toxic wasteland. Only a few people survive, living on mountaintops where the pollution can't reach. Ava lives in a bunker her father built. She's protected by a broken-down military robot named Arthur. Arthur fought in the climate wars, but Ava's dad changed his programming to keep her safe. He doesn't understand jokes or feelings, but Ava is glad she has someone to talk to. When she goes to the city for supplies, Arthur always warns her that the air and water are dangerous. She wears a mask with an oxygen tank and drives her old truck into the empty city. At the supermarket, she grabs anything she can use. One day, she finds a bag of lavender seeds and is excited. Before leaving, she paints the bunker's location on a wall in case any other survivors are out there. When she returns, Arthur won't let her in unless she says the password, Scarlet, even though he knows who she is. The bunker has a shower near the entrance where she cleans off any contamination before going inside. Ava's daily life is quiet. She tries to contact people by radio, waters her plants, organizes food, exercises, listens to music, and plays with juggling balls. Arthur always stays outside, guarding the area. There's a password book hanging on the fridge. The next day, Ava is fixing things and trading riddles with Arthur. He usually wins, but today she finally tells him a riddle he can't answer. She jokes about marrying him, but he says that doesn't make sense. This makes her snap. She says everything is nonsense now, and she's tired of being alone. Arthur asks about her father, and Ava remembers the day he left. He told her he'd come back, but he never did. Ava asks Arthur if he wants to marry her. Arthur replies that even a simple system failure could cause relationship issues. Ava says there's nothing about him she can't replace and wonders if she might be the last person alive. She tells Arthur about the information. She painted in the city, but he can't understand why. He believes that if there were survivors, they would have left signs. When Ava asks about the laws of robotics, Arthur recites them. Robots cannot harm humans or allow them to come to harm through inaction. They must obey humans unless it conflicts with the first law, and they must protect their own existence unless it conflicts with the first two. Ava argues that, to preserve his existence, Arthur should seek new power sources. She's been using decades-old solar panels and questions why maintaining them always falls on her. Arthur explains that he's a patrol unit, not an assembly unit. His job is to keep intruders out of the bunker. According to him, an intruder is anyone who doesn't know the password. This infuriates Ava. She launches into another rant about the climate wars, recalling how northern countries used robots to guard their borders and prevent refugees from passing, which in her view led to humanity's downfall. She argues that this programming violates the laws of robotics. If a refugee came seeking water, Arthur wouldn't help them. If she could, she'd reprogram Arthur into a domestic robot instead. Arthur struggles to believe the stories about robots harming humans during the war. Ava explains he was once a soldier too, but her father reset his memory after finding him. Later, Ava finishes connecting extra solar panels, hoping to hang Christmas lights this year. She wants to give Arthur a present, but he insists robots don't receive gifts. Ava admits she doesn't know what to give a robot with no likes or dislikes and wishes he could pretend to be human sometimes. Sometime later, Arthur surprises her by saying he wants his broken eye replaced for Christmas. He also asks for the answer to the riddle he couldn't solve, but Ava tells him the point is to keep thinking about it. That evening, while Ava sets out the Christmas decorations, she notices Arthur acting strangely during patrol. The distraction causes some decorations to fall and break. The next day, Ava announces she'll go to the city to find a plastic Christmas tree. She crosses the perimeter to get the gas can, but when she returns to her truck, Arthur asks for the password. Ava says Scarlet, but Arthur declares it incorrect and points a gun at her. She tries again, but Arthur won't move, even though he admits he recognizes her as Ava. He explains the password changes every 3 months, and today marks the start of a new cycle. Ava has lost track of time, and the password book is inside the bunker. She tries to prove her identity by reciting the procedure aloud and even orders Arthur to let her in, but he won't budge. Furious, Ava throws the gas can in frustration. She repeats every password they've used, but none work. She pleads with Arthur, pointing out that he knows who she is and that she'll die out there if he doesn't let her back in. Still, he refuses. When she tries to walk in anyway, Arthur raises his gun again. Horrified, Ava hides behind a generator, carefully watching Arthur's movements and patrol route. After a few hours, she tries again, greeting him casually and talking about the weather. Arthur responds normally, but when she approaches the perimeter, he demands the password again. Ava insists she only wants to retrieve an axe to get the Christmas tree, but Arthur notes there are no trees left. Since he keeps calling her Ava, she points out that he clearly recognizes her. She reminds him of the time they've spent together and that she only needs the notebook. She also reiterates that killing her would violate the laws of robotics. Arthur replies that he can't kill humans, only intruders. And to him, anyone who doesn't know the password is an Ava. With no other option, Ava hides behind the generator again. When night falls, she throws rocks to distract Arthur. He looks around but never leaves his post. The next day, Ava turns her jacket inside out and covers her face with the hood before approaching the bunker again. Arthur immediately calls her Ava, but she says that's not her name. She pretends to be a refugee asking for asylum and mentions Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which says any human can ask for asylum in case of persecution. The robot agrees, however, he needs permission from his owner, so he tells her she can find Ava behind the generator. Ava hides to change her clothes to look as usual and comes out to ask Arthur if anything new happened. When she hears about the refugee, she tells him to let her pass. Then she hides again, puts on the refugee costume, and tries once more. This time, Arthur is willing to let her come in, but first, he needs to go through a few protocol questions. He asks what kind of refugee she is since political refugees have rights, but climate refugees do not. Ava obviously answers political, and Arthur asks for proof of persecution. Ava can't believe what she's hearing and makes up a story about the war and her country killing all her family and burning her house, so she has nothing left. Next, he asks for her documents or the paperwork completed at the border granting her refugee status. She says she already filled out all the paperwork and asks for water, but Arthur says he must always give water to Ava first. Seeing they're going in circles, Ava leaves and spends the night behind the generator. In the morning, she wakes up feeling very weak. She goes to sit in front of Arthur, who asks how it's possible for her to be the last person on Earth if yesterday he saw an intruder and a refugee. He theorizes that there must be more humans at the power plant because if there's power, then someone must be doing maintenance. Ava explains that robots are doing it, but Arthur doesn't understand why they would work for nobody. Before answering that, Ava asks for water, but Arthur says he can't take anything from the base without authorization. Getting angrier, Ava starts ranting against robots. She says the power plant is still working because a robot as stupid as Arthur can't do anything except follow its programming. To close the plant, it had to activate a protocol that ended with a message saying, "Please confirm you aren't a robot," which, obviously, that robot couldn't do. Arthur doesn't see this as a problem because a robot capable of lying shouldn't be responsible for dangerous facilities. Ava reveals he couldn't get her riddle because the answer involves lying, something he can't even begin to comprehend. After taking a short rest, Ava remembers something and runs to her truck. She finds the water can in the engine, but when she tries to drink, there's nothing left. She throws the bottle at Arthur in frustration, then rests again and is shocked to find the bag of lavender seeds on the ground. With just a small hole in the dirt, she plants the seeds and waters them with the few drops she has left. Then Ava tries to offer the riddle's answer in exchange for going inside or at least getting some water, but Arthur still refuses. Getting desperate, she checks the oxygen tank in her truck and notices it has 18% left. Hoping it's enough, she gets in the truck and drives all the way to the power plant. She takes the stairs to the top of a cooling tower, then climbs down using ropes to get inside. Luckily, the door isn't locked and Ava manages to get into the actual plant. She goes through dozens of rooms while keeping an eye on her oxygen level, desperately searching for water. Eventually, she finds a map of the plant and follows it until she finally reaches the supply room, but the door is locked. At that moment, her oxygen runs out, so she takes the mask off. Then she grabs an axe and smashes the door open. Ava rushes into the supply room and is devastated to discover all the bottles are empty. After crying for a while, she starts making her way out. She comes across a bathroom and notices a few water drops in the shower, but it's not enough. In the evening, Ava arrives at the bunker. She stares at Arthur for a moment and decides to take the risk. The truck speeds toward the bunker, and Arthur immediately opens fire, forcing Ava to jump out. A few more shots make the truck explode, causing a huge fire and wounding her badly. She rips her jacket to make a bandage for her arm and passes out from the heat. The next morning, the fire is gone, and Ava is so weak she can hardly move. She crawls to the solar panels and rests against them. Arthur walks over and tells her that someone tried to break into the bunker last night and is now hiding behind the generator with the refugee. Ava tries to say it was her, but Arthur insists he never makes mistakes. Later, Ava sees her dad coming with water, but it's just a heat hallucination. It's actually Arthur. He says she can come inside if she tells him the password. He ignores her asking for water, and she passes out. A few hours later, Ava wakes up when drops of water fall on her face. They're raindrops stuck on the solar panel. She quickly drinks them, but they taste bad, and she spits them out. Ava wonders if Arthur would take care of her if they were married. Arthur says yes, but it's too late, she's about to die. That would make him a robot widower, and he says he doesn't know what that means. He thinks that's a bigger problem than her dying. This makes Ava break down. Later, she starts seeing things again. She imagines herself healthy, standing in a city, hearing children laughing. Arthur interrupts her and asks for the riddle answer, saying she's dying anyway. Ava forces herself to stand just to flip him off, then collapses again. The vision comes back, but Ava refuses to die. She says she has to beat the machine. She asks about emergency mode. Arthur says it only turns on after she dies and calls that a good plan. He says she can die peacefully because the refugee and intruder will rebuild the world. With her last breath, Ava asks him to take care of her lavender seeds. Then she dies. Arthur says lavender is the correct password and returns to his patrol. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.